Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zay and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. So this video is a staple in the book community. I've been watching it every year that I've been watching YouTube religiously, and so now I'm able to do it, and this is my first one. I'm excited. I can't wait till I'm like a few years in and I can kind of look and compare throughout the years. But this is a fun tag. I always enjoy watching it every year just to kind of see kind of where everyone is in their year up until this point, and just kind of talk about their favorite books, disappointing books, etc. It's a fun video and I enjoy kind of just reflecting on my year. So I'm excited to do it, and there's a lot of books to talk about. I have a large stack of books over here. So I'm excited, and I saw two different tags that had a couple different things added in, so I just chose one of them. I don't know, it seems like there's a couple different versions of this tag, but if you want to participate in the comments below, please do so. I would love to hear kind of you reflect on your year of reading so far and all that good stuff. First question is best book I've read so far. It's a Funny Story by Emily Henry. So this is a big win for me because I did not love Happy Place. It's one of my most disappointing books of the year, and it's not a bad book, but Emily Henry has reached like one of my favorite authors of all time status, and I just expect every book to be a banger. I can't help that, and I was disappointed with Happy Place, but Funny Story was incredible. I went into it with not super high expectations coming off of Happy Place, so I think that this just knocked my socks off. I was just so obsessed and completely immersed in the story from the very beginning, and Emily Henry is just a fantastic writer, and I've really enjoyed every book I've read by her, but this one, I just think I kind of read it also at like the perfect time. I was in the mood for this type of story. I was obsessed with, I love the plot, you know, it's a little bit unique, and I just loved everything about it. It's a perfect book for me. This is like my perfect book. It's just amazing, chef's kiss all around. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, duh. Like Abby, ever since I read Part of Your World, I have been a fan. I've been a stan and an ambassador. I just really enjoy her books, and I love how emotional her books are and how realistic her books are, but she can also make me laugh like a second later. Like her books are just so well balanced. And while I do think that her books didn't tend to go on the women's fiction side, I don't even care because it's just refreshing. And this book also, I'm so annoyed because this book is the Target edition, and like you can't take that off. I'm so annoyed by that every time I look at it. But this is incredible. I don't know if it's my favorite Abby Jimenez book, but this is absolutely like one of my favorite books that I've read this year. And if you have not read any of these, give it a try. And if you haven't read Just for the Summer, I definitely recommend starting with Part of Your World. Best sequel I've read. Sequel is Midnight of Ashes by Tessa Hale. So this is a why choose like dragon shifter romance, and I have never read a why choose. I've just told myself that I probably wasn't going to like it, as I'll probably be more invested in just one couple than the others. And then I read this one, and I still want to like dive into more why choose romances, but I absolutely love this, and this was a fantastic sequel. I really enjoyed it. I definitely think the world building takes a back seat in this story, and I'm definitely super invested in that, so I wanted more answers in this book, but we got a lot of relationship development with each of the guys, and we got to dive into the backstories of the guys, and so I just felt like this was a really good follow-up to the first book, and the third one is coming out really, really soon, and I'm really excited for it. It's technically a sequel. It's the second book in this interconnected kind of standalone series, so I'm counting it, and that's Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I recently finished this book, and it was a really great follow-up to Love Redesign. I'm just really enjoying this series by Lauren Asher. It's just like such a cozy series, but like very emotional, and I think her writing is phenomenal, and I love Redesigned, so for this to be even better, absolutely incredible. Pieces I haven't read yet, but I want to. There's a lot, so I had to like condense this. So the first one is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah H. Parker. I need to read this fantasy. I've heard amazing things. Talk about this with Rachel from the Ribbon Hair Reader, and she made me so excited. By the way, like, she's my favorite to watch for fantasy romance recommendations. Like, she just has the best ones. Jess from Honest Fiction. Those are my two fantasy girls. To see, I prefer to have an audiobook and to read along with it, and this just came out on audio, so it's just like, I just love an immersive experience with fantasy reading. It's just my favorite way to experience fantasy books. So I feel like I pay attention so much more. I feel like I really like comprehend what I'm reading better, because I'm not a fantasy reader and I don't always understand what's happening in fantasy. And so this is like a true fantasy romance. It's not like a romance with some fantasy elements in it. So I cannot wait to read this one. It will be very soon when I can like have the time to really like immerse myself in this experience. And then I have All My Love by Morgan Elizabeth. I really want to read this book. It's like a second chance romance, and I believe the author said it's a mix between The Notebook and Sweet Home Alabama, those movies, and that makes me very excited. So I want to read this one, and hopefully I can get to it super soon. Up the Moon by Ava Hunter. I'm really annoyed that I haven't read this one yet. I'm shocked. I've started it and then I just put it down. I've just not been reading with my eyeballs lately, so that's why I haven't read this one yet, but I absolutely will. It's the second book in her like small town series that she's writing in right now, and it's like Cowboy Ranch series. Old Kingdom by Holly Renee. So I've heard several people talk about this book, and I really want to read it. And I feel like this is a book that I'm going to pick up really soon, because it's like a fantasy romance, but it's more like romance with some fantasy in it. So that'll be easy for me to read, and I feel like I can just read that one very quickly and easily. So I am excited for that. I haven't read anything by Holly Renee, so that will be a new to me author, and I'm excited to read something by her. But those are the books that released this year that I really want to read and get to very, very soon. Okay, and my most anticipated releases for 2024 for the second half of the year. So the first book is Play Along by Liz Tom Ford. We are so close. It's 1 month away. I cannot wait for this book to come out. This is the fourth book, and the second and the third have been my favorite. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what she's going to do with this one. I just know it's going to be amazing. Brothers by Penelope Douglas. This book just sounds so interesting. I remember reading the synopsis for this one a while ago. I've forgotten what the synopsis was about because it's been a while since I've read it. But I remember being really excited for it, and I will be reading it when it comes out. And I believe like the audio will come out like when the book comes out, like when the ebook comes out. So I feel like I should be able to get to this one fairly quickly for a Penelope Douglas release, and I think this one comes out July 30th, so quickly. And Play Along also comes out in July. Wrath of an Exile, Monty J, I think is what it's called. This one comes out in August. So this is a second gen series from her Hollow Boys series, which I will be having a deep dive video coming out very soon. I cannot wait for this book because I already know who the couple, like who the children are from our main characters, and I'm just so excited for it. I think it's gonna be really good, and I'm excited to read more from Monty J that's connected to the Hollow Boys, because the Hollow Boys, it, you know, could be one of my favorite series. We will see. I'm not done yet, so a deep dive is coming. It's coming. The book is The Striker by Anna Huang. So this is a soccer romance, which have I read a soccer romance? Maybe I have. But it's been a really long time, and I love Anna Huang. I love her books. I really enjoyed the Kings of Sin series, which is another release. That series, that book and that series I have not read. That just came out recently. I have not read that. Why haven't I? I don't know. It's fun. And it's something different from Anna Huang. So she's written mainly billionaire romances and stuff, so I'm excited to see her write a sports romance. I'm very intrigued. Every time she posts something about it, I'm just like even more intrigued. So very excited for this one, and I just have very high hopes coming off of the Kings of Sin series. The biggest disappointments of the year. Just want to say, preface this before I get into it. These two books that I'm going to talk about are not bad books, and I rated them pretty highly. But when I have an author that is my favorite author, I am tough on their books. Like I have expectations through the roof. I cannot help it, and I feel like that's fair. And these did not meet my expectations, and I was disappointed in them because I expected these to be like on my favorites of the year list, and they're not. And I expected these to be 5 stars, and they are not. And objectively, I gave these high ratings because I feel like they were written well. And there were certain elements about the story that I did like that I felt like I couldn't rate it any lower. But as far as like, did it meet my expectations for my own rating, it would be lower. So that's the way I'm going into these books. Is Leather and Lark by Red Weaver. Okay, I did enjoy this one more after I've had time to think about it, but I just can't, like, I have to admit that I was expecting this to be on my favorites of the year list, and it's not. And I'm so sad because Butcher and Blackbird is just like a masterpiece, and it was such an surprising read for me, and I had so much fun reading it, and it just kind of like blew me away. And this just didn't. It feels like just like an average book, and that book, Butcher and Blackbird, are so unique, and it's such a standout amongst other releases, especially last year. So this one has just kind of blended in with other books, and I don't know, this one just didn't have that spark and what made Butcher and Blackbird so good. And I was disappointed in it. But it is a good book. It's written well. I think the romance is well done. I think everything develops very nicely and naturally. And this is a slow burn romance, which I love. But I can't help but say that I was disappointed and underwhelmed, which I can't believe it. I'm so shocked. This definitely did not meet my expectations, but it is a book that I would recommend, and you're going to see it in some recommendations videos and things like that. And I gave it 4 stars, but it's not that highly rated on my expectations scale, so that's why it's on this list. Sad about it, and I feel guilty for even putting it on this list, but I have to be honest, and that's This Could Be Us by Kenny Ryan. Putting this on the list, honestly, like, I did not expect this, but I'm telling you that after I finished this book, I just moved on like nothing, and I have never felt that way after reading a Kenny Ryan book, ever, ever. I have always like been in a book slump, or I just felt like I just read like a masterpiece and how can I move on? And I just did not feel that way at all. And it was such a shock. This feels very heavily women's fiction, which I don't mind, okay? I think once you compare it to Just for the Summer, that had way more romance than This Could Be Us. Soledad's story is extremely powerful. And it's a really important story, and I think it's a story that many people and many women in particular can relate to. But I even felt like that part of the story, like some parts were kind of like preachy. I really like when I can experience things with the characters, and I don't want to be told that they're on this journey of self-discovery, and I don't want to be told that they're growing. I want to feel it. I want to go through it with them. And I just didn't think I got to experience Soledad's journey with her. I felt like I was being told these inspirational things, and I was being told the journey that Soledad was going on, but I wasn't a part of it, and I didn't experience it. So I felt like an outsider reading this story. Want in any book, but it definitely in this kind of story. So I felt like an outsider looking in, and I just didn't feel like I was a part of it. I feel like there were certain parts that were very glossed over, that went by too quickly. And then the romance was great. I mean, our hero was perfect. I just don't know him. I feel like I didn't know him, and I felt like he also was an outsider in his own love story. I felt like he wasn't really a part of his own love story. And I felt like that was very weird, and I've never read that from Kenny Ryan before. And I didn't know him. You know, I know he's a father, and I know his job, and I don't know anything else about him. I really like when our heroes are fleshed out characters, and I think you can still have it to where the heroine is the main focus and you still have this awesome romance. Like, I've seen Kennedy and Ryan do it plenty times, and I just didn't feel it with this. Judah is a book boyfriend. Don't get it twisted. This is a man. This is a man, okay? And I did not dislike this book. It's just, it did not meet my expectations for what I was expecting. I was definitely expecting a different story. And what I got was very different. I feel like this was vastly different from Before I Let Go. I feel like we still got this really powerful story with a really strong romance. And I feel like we got this powerful story that was being told to me and not a strong romance. So, you know, but this is a great book and it's so well written. Like Kennedy Ryan cannot write a bad book. And also she puts so much, she's so thoughtful about the representation that she includes in her books. And I feel like this had amazing representation. And I feel like she did her due diligence and she did her research to try to really represent this character very well. It is outside her lived experience with our main character. So I feel like that was so well done. And I do think this is going to be, because I'm assuming the whole Skyland series is going to be adapted. And not just Before I Let Go, right? Like the goal is all 3 books. This is going to be really great on TV. Like I think this is going to translate better on TV than it did in this book. So I think it's going to end up being really, really good. So anyway, I feel bad for putting it on this. I feel bad, but honest, I have to be honest. Biggest surprise. This one is definitely the Dixon Rule. And I shouldn't be surprised because I loved the Graham Effect, but this book took me on a roller coaster. I was not prepared for how emotional this book was going to be, how steamy it was going to be, and I loved those elements of the story. I loved it. Elle Kennedy writes from the perspective of a young person and they're, you know, college aged so well. Like, I think she probably writes the best. She just writes these characters very authentically, and the characters say things that I can imagine like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds actually saying, which is refreshing and kind of unheard of in this day and age of people writing college and adult romances. And then the things that she wrote about in this story are things that young people are really going through. And I just felt like these characters went through things that it just felt like real life was really happening to them, and it was just refreshing to read. Just was surprised. I cried. I cried when I read this book. Like that'll come up later in this, but I cried and I was not expecting to cry. This was beautifully done. One of my favorite books of the year. I'm shocked. Like I loved The Grimm Effect, but it didn't make it on my top 10 or anything, but this will. I loved it. This was fantastic. And I will always sing this book's praises because it was fantastic. Before Us by Julie Ann. I have read several books by Julie Ann, and I have DNF'd every single one of them. Every single one of them. And I know what it is about Julie Ann, so her plots draw me in. I think her plots are so good. But the execution of it is not my vibe. I like a slow burn romance, and I feel like when you're writing these intense stories, I want the steam to come later because I just feel like we have too many things that are happening with the characters to get to that, and it just seems like the relationship is very lustful, and she definitely introduces the steam too early for the type of books that she's writing, right? When you think of like intense, angsty, emotional romances, usually the steam comes later. And she gets right into it, and it's very lustful, and I just am like, I wanted more things to happen. I just wanted more before we got to this. And I usually stop reading her books, okay? I usually DNF. But Before Us was very different. This was a very different book from, I think, from Julie Ann in general. I love this book. It is so good. Very emotional. I cried again, and I loved it. It was very beautifully written, and I was immediately sucked into this story, and I did not want to stop reading it, and it was my perfect book. Like everything that happened, it hit all the beats that I wanted to hit in a romance. And I feel like this is severely underrated. If you like angsty romances, this is for you. Like Before Us is one of my favorite books of the year. I love it. I'm obsessed. And I think you should be reading this if you have not already. And I have not heard I really haven't heard anybody talk about this book. Yes, You Are Intolerable by Julia Wolf. So this is the month of me reading, the year of me reading pregnancy books, which is something I have never liked. Now, I realized that I never really read a true surprise pregnancy. What was happening when I was reading romances, like when I first started reading romance, is every book would end with the heroine getting pregnant and then she's kind of freaking out over how the hero would react. And I was so tired of that same thing happening in like every book. It was like ruining the end of every book. And this was happening like several years ago. And I was like, I don't want to read any more pregnancy books. And so, but I had never read a true surprise pregnancy, and Out on a Limb changed that for me. And so this book, I was like, I'm really going to test my theory here. I love this book, and I realized why I like this trope so much. And this book had it to where the hero steps up to the plate and he takes care of a woman. He provides her with the support that she needs for her and her baby, and he loves them both and loves the woman and loves the kid as if it was his own. And I just love that, and I want more of it. And I get it. I understand. I am now a surprise pregnancy girly. And Intolerable really solidified that for me. I need to read the book that just came out by her in this series as well. So many books to read and no time to read them all. And this is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So I did not know what I was expecting when I read this book, but I thought it was such a fun twist on like the paranormal romances that came out in like the early 2000s and things. It felt like that, but like with her own twist, and Ali Hazelwood really made it into her own. Like she really had, you know, that Ali Hazelwood signature writing that we love. It was funny and it was like bonkers. It's kind of how I explain Ali Hazelwood's writing, because her books get out of control sometimes, okay, in a good way. And this definitely had that, but it was very nostalgic, but she made it her own, and I found that to be really unique. And Ali Hazelwood really did something really fun with this book. And I did not know we were going to be getting a second book in the series. I believe I'm right, and I'm excited for that. But this was such a surprise. I was not expecting to love it this much. I want to reread it. It was so good. New favorite author. So the first one is Julia Wolf. I mean, she made me a fan with P.S. You're Intolerable. I read this book. So Julia Wolf fits the bill for that. I definitely want to read more, but I read that one book by her, and P.S. You're Intolerable is like, stays in my brain rent free. Kate and Corinne, because of Unsteady. It's the only book she has out right now, but Unloved is coming out next year. I really love this book, and when I read it, I was like, oh, that was good. And then after a couple days after, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was like, no, I loved this book. Like, this is 5 stars. Like, this might be one of my favorite books of the year. And this book just kind of like snuck up on me. It's one of those that it took me some time and I really thought about it, and I was like, oh, I loved this book. And I love that feeling. Monty J with the Hollow Boy series. I really like what Monty J is doing with this series of what I read so far. I love the way that they explore mental health and the discussions of trauma and how that can affect people differently and manifest in people differently. And the found family is amazing. I'm just really enjoying the writing style. The next is Tessa Hale. So I want to read, why I choose Believer. Like, these books right here are just so much fun. I really loved her writing. It's just so much fun. Now, these are new adult, and there are some elements that I don't love because I feel like they feel a little too young for me to enjoy. Kind of like the catty girl drama. I don't care about that, but the romances and things like that are so good. I love it, and I want to read more by Tessa. And her books are so bingeable. Like, you don't want to put them down. And that's the kind of like author that I need for when I'm in a book slump or something. I need a pick-me-up author, and I think that's going to be Tessa Hale. So we have newest fictional crush, Miles from Funny Story. Oh my god, I want my own Miles. He reminded me of Nick Miller from New Girl. He is Nick Miller coded. Perfect. I don't know. I want Miles. Like, he's my type. Okay. Funny. He's a little, He's a little like broody, just a little bit. Like if you try to get to know Miles too much, he will be like, oh, nope, that's too much. Let me throw in a joke. And he tries to like do that. And I don't know, I'm into that. What's wrong with me? It's why I'm single. So when he did open up to our heroine, it just like, when he felt comfortable enough to be vulnerable, I just loved it. But he was so sweet and he is just everything. I love him. I want him. For the summer, also, I'm just going to throw it out there. Both of these books, which are my favorite books of the year, my ex's names are these, Miles and Justin, but they are nothing like these books. But I just want to point that out, that both of my favorite books of the year, the heroes have my ex's names. Anyway, Justin, the way that he was obsessed, like he was obsessed with her, and he was just like gone for her. Abby Jimenez's men are perfect. They're funny, they're smart, tuned with their feelings, and they're vulnerable, they're honest. They tell you what they want. Like if he wanted to, he would. That is Abby Jimenez's heroes. If he wanted to, he would. Okay? And I want her. Look, Abby, I need you to do this for me. Okay? I need you. Where is my man? Where's my Abby Jimenez man? Please find him for me because they are my dreams. Or Emily Henry. Or Kennedy Ryan. Okay, anyway. Okay, Elliot Levy from P.S. You're Intolerable. Just the way that he supported our heroine and the way that he stepped up to the plate. He's perfect. Anson Hunt from Fragile Sanctuary. Again, we've got this man who is broody and whatever, but he protected our heroine. Like when ish was hitting the fan, he was like, oh no, oh no. And he stepped in, and the way he protected her and was there for her physically and also emotionally. But Catherine's men are just everything. Like they are perfect men that you would really want to date in real life. Again, where's my Catherine Cowles man? I don't even know. New favorite characters, Miss Sagebird from Savor It. She is just full of life. She really appreciates life because of everything that she's gone through. She doesn't take anything for granted and she tries to savor every moment. And I love that so much about her. She loves animals. She's so sunshine. And I just want to be her best friend. I just want her around me at all times. I feel this way about all of Tara's heroines though. Like they're just so relatable and easy to love. And Sagebird was that for me. Big Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. So I love this book first and foremost. One of my favorites so far that I've read this year. But our heroine is plus sized and she is so confident in herself. I love that she knew her worth. I love that she knew that she was beautiful inside and out. And I love how she stood up for herself. And that is not a problem in this book. Like our heroine does not struggle with the way that she feels about herself. And I just found it to be so refreshing to read about a woman who's like, no. Like I know what I come to the table with regardless of my weight. And I know that there are reasons why people are single that have nothing to do with their weight. Like I just loved her and I think Danielle Allen wrote her so well. And right now she's my favorite character. I recently finished this book by her and I think about her. I love her and you need to read this book if you haven't. Sadie from Unsteady, as a fellow older sibling, I can relate to Sadie a lot. The way that she's taking care of her siblings, she has honestly the world on her shoulders. I just really admired her. She's so young. She has so much that she's responsible for. And on top of that, she's an athlete. Just like how she just keeps going and she just takes it day by day. And she's just in full survival mode. And I just really loved her and admired her and felt so bad for her that she was so young and had so much responsibility. And she just deserved this beautiful love story that Pink Corinne wrote. But I love, love Sadie from Unsteady. Lastly, we have Lex from Serpentine Valentine. If you've read Serpentine Valentine, then you know why. But she was such a strong character. I was rooting for her the entire time. The entire book. Next, we have books that made me cry. So I mentioned a couple already. Problem with Players by Brittany Cherry. This book made me cry, and I wasn't expecting it. But this book deals with some really heavy stuff, topics like mental health, and it just hit me in my feels. This was, it hit me. This was really great. And if you want good mental health representation, this is perfect. I really loved it. The last question is just kind of like, what books do you need to read a year? And I'm just kind of interpreting this as like reading plans for the rest of the year. So first one is fantasy romances. I have so many that I want to read, and I need to read them. Like, why am I not reading them? I don't know. And it's like summertime now. I can admit I'm not really in the mood for fantasy romances. I feel like that's like fall and winter, but I still want to read them. So like When the Moon Hatched, I have Spark of the Everflame on my list. Those are like the two heavy hitter fantasy romances that I have to get to this year. So it's definitely going to be a priority, probably more so in the fall and winter months. So be on the lookout for that. Next, backlist romances. And I want to start a series on my channel when I read backlist romances for you all. So like Cora Riley, diving into Cora Riley's Mafia series. I really want to read the Something in the Way series by Jessica Hawkins. That series like haunts me because it's been on my TBR for a really long time. And it's like everything that I love. Very like angsty. There's a love triangle. Like, why haven't I read it? So I definitely am going to be having like I said, a backlist series where I read backlist romance be coming up very soon. Next, thriller. A lot of the new releases thrillers have come out, and I'm definitely feeling like I'm in a thriller mood right now. So I feel like I'm going to be catching up soon, but more thrillers are on my list. Explore literary fiction. So I read Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. I'm saying her name right. I really enjoyed this book. This is a literary fiction book that I recently read, and I want to explore and read more literary fiction and just read more so outside of romance in general. Lit fic, there's some science fiction books I want to read. There's some historical fiction I want to read. So I just need to do it. I just need to do it. And I think that I will in the next coming months here. And then last but not least, read Hermione fanfiction. I cannot believe I haven't read a Hermione fanfiction yet, but I definitely think this is going to be a series on my channel where I'm going to explore and read more of it. A lot of these are going to be series coming up. I have a fun change in my life that's coming up really soon, but it's a huge one. And it is taken up a lot of my time, so I'm not really able to create a lot of the creative content and just content that I want to make. So after I'm settled, I'll be able to make more fun content for you all. So expect fun content coming in the second half of the year, and I can actually do the things that I've been wanting to do. So I'm excited for it. But the Hermione fanfic is one that I will be exploring, and I want to document it for you all because I just think that'd be really fun. So definitely that's something I want to get into. So this was a really fun video to make. Like I said, you know, you can participate in this in the comments below. I want to hear what you all have to say about your reading year so far. The stack of books emoji. If you made it to the end of the video, leave that for me. Thank you all, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.